to a brand new episode of the podcast entitled Couch Potatoes Unite! This is a podcast based on a blog of the same name because we like to think we're putting on our own little sideshow, which you'll never forget. My name is Kylie and I love TV. If you feel the same, keep listening and or checking out the blog at couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com as you're bound to find some common ground or something you like. For at Couch Potatoes Unite, we're all about the wonders and the unique long-form storytelling of the small screen. CPU! Hopes you've been following releases of brand new episodes of the podcast on Wednesdays, as well as new blog entries on some Tuesdays. It's easy to do if you subscribe. And as always, we have several more new episodes on the way. Because the panelists and I live lives behind our podcast, the episodes are being published once per week in mini seasons, kind of like The Walking Dead. So subscribe to the blog or the podcast via iTunes or Stitcher Radio to stay on top of brand new episodes. Episodes already published discuss a variety of shows, including, but not limited to, Doctor Who, Downton Abbey, How to Get Away with Murder, Broadchurch, Once Upon a Time, New Girl, The Vampire Diaries, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Gotham, Supernatural, Orange is the New Black, Game of Thrones, and Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. We also look back at shows that have been off the air for some time. In addition, we have multi-show and within-show series in which we cover a show, or perhaps a universe of several shows, over the course of several ongoing episodes, including The X-Files, the DC television universe, such as Arrow and The Flash, and the Marvel's Defenders, including Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and others. If you don't hear your show in this podcast format, though, check out the blog. Fellow panelists and I still write reviews, and we're always seeking new panelists, so if you have any interest in joining the discussion, say hello. We have a Facebook page, a Twitter, follow us at CPU Podcast, and an email address at couchpotatoesunitepodcast@gmail.com. We also have an Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite and a Pinterest at CPU Podcast. Of course, you can always subscribe to the blog, our YouTube channel, our iTunes channel, or our Stitcher Radio channel and leave comments and reviews. If you like what you hear, tell your friends. Write a review or give us a thumbs up so we can grow this friendly community of couch potatoes. Today we're around the water cooler as a continuation of another brand new CPU! Podcast series. This series won't have a fixed number of episodes like other series we do. Rather, it will be ongoing as this show is still on the air. However, we're covering it over multiple episodes because it's an anthology series and actually the first of its kind in recent years. Welcome to the 4th episode of our American Horror Story series. In this series, we've already discussed seasons 1 through 3. Today, we move to the 4th season, officially subtitled Freak Show. Described as an anthology series, each season of American Horror Story is conceived as a self-contained mini-series, following a disparate set of characters and settings and a storyline with its own beginning, middle, and end. Some plot elements are loosely inspired by true events. The 4th season, subtitled Freak Show, takes place in Jupiter, Florida during the year 1952 and centers around one of the few remaining American sideshows, or freak shows. Season 4 follows a struggling freak show led by Elsa Mars, played by Jessica Lange. Decades have passed since the public has looked upon freak shows as a form of entertainment, but Elsa dreams of finding a home for her new monsters as well as her own fame. When conjoined twins Bet and Dot Tatler, played by Sarah Paulson, are taken to the hospital, Elsa sees her chance to finally drum up some business for her sideshow, hoping the two sisters will save her troop once and for all. Other members include Jimmy Darling, played by Evan Peters, a boy born with syndactyly who dreams of leaving the carny life behind and living a normal life. Jimmy's mother, the bearded lady Ethel Darling, played by Kathy Bates, is Elsa's second in command and maintains law and order under the tent. A strong man from Ethel's troubled past named Del Toledo, played by Michael Chiklis, and his three-breasted wife, Desiree Dupree, played by Angela Bassett, make waves when they arrive at the sideshow. In a time when the era of television is beginning to reign high above sideshow acts, these individuals must overcome those who persecute them based on their looks. However, as events unfold, it is revealed that multiple dark entities have taken up residence in Jupiter, with all of their eyes being set on the freaks. Flashbacks are set in the 1940s, but include a flash forward to the 1960s. As we sit around the water cooler for our American Horror Story series of podcast episodes, we're also introducing another new development to the CPU structure. You might already have noticed that from time to time, some familiar voices have taken the moderating reins to give yours truly, the Chief Couch Potato, a break, or a chance to be an ordinary panelist where appropriate. Well, for this series, because we're all big fans of the show and because each season is so different, we decided to rotate moderators. However, because this is the 4th season, we have come back around. So today, I'm back on the moderating mic to talk Freak Show with my fellow AHS panelists, Sarah and Nick. Welcome back, Sarah and Nick.
Thank you.
How are you?
Doing good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Living the dream.
Living the dream.
Living the dream.
Are you ready to live the dream in this freak show?
Oh, show.
All right. So, I think we've already established in the previous episodes how we came to watch American Horror Story, and of course, what we like to do at Couch Potatoes Unite is ask a quirky and yet standard character question. And because the seasons of American Horror Story are all different with all different storylines, we have changed this character breakdown each time. And guess what? I have a new one for Freak Show.
Ooh.
So what I would like to do is ask you how you would rate your interest in this season, the American Horror Story Freak Show season. Are you ready?
Yes.
Sure.
All right. Did you watch it because you loved it? The freaks of the Freak Show were your freaks, your monsters. You loved them like they were your children. You also expected that they would help you realize your dreams of becoming famous, like Elsa Mars. Did you watch it, but you were suspicious of this chapter? You either didn't watch previous seasons or initially didn't feel that it rose to the quality of other AHS seasons, but it eventually grew on you. You and your two heads caught the bug, basically, like Bet and Dot Tatler. Did you watch it out of a sense of duty? On the one hand, you love the freaks of the Freak Show like family, but on the other hand, you secretly wished that this season was more normal and more like other or past seasons, like Jimmy Darling. Did you watch it and loved it, but didn't want to love it? You loved it in spite of yourself and in spite of the fact that you hesitantly convinced a lot of other people to watch the season, like Maggie Esmeralda. Did you watch it because you needed something like it in your life, regardless of how you felt about previous seasons? You'd been down on your luck and needed something you could relate to once more. Plus, there were a lot of unexpected twists for you, good and bad, like Del Toledo. Did you watch it because everyone else in your life watches it and you don't mind it? After all, it's an outlet for you and all you have to offer, like your 3 breasts, for example, like Desiree Dupree. Did you watch it because you're fiercely loyal to the show and to the concept, but you felt that the Freak Show ultimately betrayed and disappointed you in the end, like Ethel Darling? Did you watch it and liked it because you related to it at first, that is, until it displeased you, and then you killed it and everyone else around you, like Dandy Mott? Did you watch it because your kids watch it and you decided to join them since you inadvisably give your children whatever they want and make really poor choices for your children? Or perhaps you're afraid of your children because, let's face it, they're a bit psychotic, like Gloria Mott. Or did you watch it but you weren't really into it, you just wanted to exploit it or make money off it, and at best, you were hoping to see a lot of death, like Stanley?
Those can't be the options.
This was really hard, this character breakdown. And there are more main characters in this season than there are in any other season so far.
Can I pull the curator? Because I want to collect all the seasons, and I really want to just hang out with them and watch them all.
What? No! Stick to the list, Nick. Rule breaker.
Don't you dare say our kids are psychotic.
I didn't.
Not that one. That one's off the table.
But they do watch the show.
They do not watch the show. Keep us listening. They do not watch the show. They are infant babies. They do not.
They wouldn't remember it even if I did, but yeah, well, that was really hard. It was really hard.
I'll go first because mine was clear.
Okay.
But I might need you to reread part of it. So I am Sarah, and I picked Desiree, although I do not have 3 breasts.
Yay!
I don't. Could be helpful sometimes.
Sure.
I currently have a small baby. What was hers? Read hers again. What was the
Hers
category one?
was, you watched it because everyone else in your life watches it and you don't mind it. After all, it's an outlet for you and all you have to offer, like your 3 breasts, for example.
Okay, I don't have 3 breasts, but the other stuff is true. Everyone else in my life watches it. I don't mind it. It's an outlet for things that I have to offer, like this podcast.
Awesome. Welcome back, Sarah.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Nick, do the list.
I liked my addition. I guess I watched it because I loved it. I watched it. Elsa Mars won.
Okay. Because the freaks of the freak show were your freaks, your monsters. You love them like they were your children, and you would expect them to help you realize your dreams of becoming famous.
Yeah, that one.
He's just mad that I didn't let him say curator. It's not a main character.
If you can tell us the name of the actor that plays that role.
Nope.
Okay, then no. Kylie, how about you?
So I would actually be Bet and Dot. I watched it but was suspicious of this chapter because I initially didn't feel that it rose to the quality of the other seasons, but it eventually grew on me. And me and my 2 heads, I don't actually have 2 heads, caught the bug, basically. So, and I qualify that by saying that before I sat down to watch Freak Show, so many people that I know who watched it said, oh my gosh, not Sarah and Nick, for the record, and we'll talk about this, but so many people said Freak Show is the absolute worst of all the 4 seasons. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to watch it because I'm a completionist. But everybody lowered my expectations so much that when I sat down to watch it, I was actually pleasantly surprised by it. And so I related to the conjoined twins this time. So welcome back to the both of you. Let's get right to it. Tell me how you thought about Freak Show.
I liked it a lot. It was very entertaining. I think the goriest one.
Yes.
In my opinion. Not necessarily the most disturbing. I think I'm more disturbed by Asylum. But there was, a lot more blood and guts and horrible things happening to people.
That you could see, maybe.
Yes.
Because a lot of the stuff in Asylum, you see the result and you know what happened, but you don't watch it happening. And this one, you pretty much watch things happening.
And I guess I watch a lot of horror movies and gory movies where it doesn't, I'm more bothered by the psychological and the effects of it, that I don't need to see it, or even when I do. I've watched the Saw movies a bunch, whatever's wrong with me to prevent it from bothering me doesn't. Just like in season 3, I wasn't bothered as much by the torture and that gore. But this one, it was all over the place, and they showed a lot. They showed a lot more. It was surprising how much they showed.
It was a little bit more slasher porn kind of driven than really any of the other seasons. But to me, it was also one of the more well-rounded stories as far as its beginning, middle, and end. Even though there were quite a lot of people and aspects and things going on in Freak Show, all of them were tied up in a neat little bow by the end.
I would agree with that.
I liked this season.
Okay.
Next!
All right.
What if you had someone on the panel that just... Yes. No.
Well, that doesn't make for a very good podcast.
No, it doesn't. I have this, I don't want to say fascination, but interest in Freak Show things. And I think it stems from my love of the Broadway musical Sideshow.
Okay.
And
I knew you were going to say that.
It's true. Listeners, I am a Broadway baby. I love that show, and I, several years ago, auditioned for it. I was not cast, but in my preparation for the role of the Siamese twins, as they were then known, I read about Daisy and Violet Hilton, who were real conjoined twins, and they were famous vaudeville performers. And so ever since then, it's just been a fascinating world, because it really did have a dark underbelly. I don't know about murders or anything of that sort, but there was some exploitation and, some very not nice treatment of some of those folks. So I think that's one of the things that really I don't know, made me fascinated.
Okay.
I couldn't wait for this one to come out. I thought it was a great premise for them to explore. I think it was an interesting thing for them to think of, to want to explore. And it was very bloody and gross.
Yes.
And I personally combat that by first reading a synopsis online and then watching the episode. And in that way, I can prepare myself to not watch.
It's not the typical horror movie attitude.
I know.
Or horror show attitude.
I think that I get fixated on things. For example, Elsa's legs. I knew we were gonna know, and I had to figure that out before they showed it. Then I was prepared for what truly happened, because it is terrible. It is very terrible. But I knew in advance, so I could deal with it. And
okay.
That's my method.
That's your method. Well, and I think, so we'll start talking about some of these specifics, and the theme that's coming out is that freak show of the 4 that we've watched, because again, at the time of this recording, we have not seen Hotel, and Hotel is allegedly pretty gory as well, but of the 4 that we've watched, freak show does seem to be the goriest. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we have not just 1, not 2, but 3 major killers in this season, in addition to several minor killers that kind of happen in and out of the season. So let's start with the big bads. We have the clown, Twisty.
Yes.
We have Dandy, the sociopathic rich boy. And then we also have Stanley, played by Dennis O'Hare, who is basically trying to collect the freaks and sell them to a museum, and is doing it through a long con with Ms. Esmeralda, who's played by Emma Roberts. How did you feel about these big bads and how they all tied together and affected the story?
I love Twisty. Twisty is nothing's creepier than a killer clown. I liked kind of the reveal of his story and his mask. I think the first time we see him in his first killing is just perfectly executed for a horror movie slasher type event. So I really enjoyed that, and then I enjoyed the difference in Dandy's storyline and him becoming a killer, and that the difference between Twisty's story and his. And then Stanley, I just couldn't wait for his comeuppance. Like, they could have killed him sooner, and I think I would have enjoyed it more, because it's just a weasel, and they of course had to show Ma Petite get killed a couple times, even though it was like planning it. I'm like, just don't.
She was so cute.
Don't kill her. I didn't want her to die, even though I guess whatever. They were all gonna die, but as we see in the end, they all get killed anyway, whether it's by Stanley or Dandy.
I thought that, Twisty was, at first I was a little annoyed. I'm like, oh great, this is just an evil clown. What does he have to do with anything? But I love that they took us through his whole story and the evolution of him getting there and his motivations. I thought that was a good storyline in the end. And I mean, he was creepy and evil and scary, but I could handle him. Dandy, however, was very tough for me to take. He just was psycho. He was psychotic and disgusting. His motives were never clear. I don't know. I mean,
well, they actually do give a little bit of an explanation. You learn it from Gloria prior to her tragic end at the hand of Dandy, because Dandy pretty much kills just about everyone until he dies himself. Spoiler. But she basically alludes to the fact that this sort of psychosis runs through their family, that his father had it, his grandfather had it, and she was sort of waiting on tenterhooks, and he'd always been kind of a off child, and then starts to express his murderous impulses through animals, and then eventually graduates to humans in this season.
Well, Ryan Murphy has said that scene where he kills the male escort was the single most disturbing thing that has ever been written and filmed for American Horror Story, in his opinion. I tend to agree.
It was up there.
So, yep, he was a scary one. Stanley didn't frighten me in the same way. I mean, because he just, his motivations were also very clear, and I think, yeah, you guys said Ma Petite. None of us wanted her to die.
No.
That was just
I think Stanley is the expression of that exploitation you're kind of
Yes.
talking about, but again in a more murderous way. But he's sort of the personification of it in this season because he honestly wants to take advantage of the fact that they're all freaks, and then freaks quotation marks, and then put them in this museum that exploits freaks quotation marks.
He, in the end, gets his comeuppance, and they turn him into the Chicken Man, which is a nod to the famous Todd Browning film Freaks, where in the end they turn the trapeze artist lady into the Bird Girl. So that was a very interesting throwback to that movie, which is a cult classic, of course. I personally have never seen it, but
neither have I. For me, I think Twisty was very disturbing. I don't normally get scared by clowns. I know a lot of people have clown aversions. Clowns don't bother me, even in stuff like It. The clown is the creepiest part, as opposed to the end of the story, which is stupid. Sorry, Stephen King, if you're listening. But in this season, and this clown, even though he had sort of a tragic backstory, and you kind of sympathized with him in the end, I thought he was incredibly unsettling, and I did not like the fact that he was a clown. So I was like, oh no, is this show going to make me scared of clowns when I haven't been scared of clowns? I mean, some people are scared of clowns, just funny clowns, but it was a very well executed first scene when he, murdered the picnickers. It was horrific and true horror tradition.
he didn't murder the girl, right? He took her back.
Right, he took her back. He murdered the boy, though, the boyfriend of her. Dandy was very disturbing, and everything he did was very disturbing. We kind of talked a little bit in our last episode about maybe Freak Show sort of desensitized you a little bit because it kept happening and happening and happening. And unfortunately, that kind of happened with me watching Dandy because it happened all the time. Like, yes, everything was progressively more horrific and disturbed, and he was psychotic, but it got to a point where I was like, oh, Dandy's killing somebody else for me. And Finn Wittrock did a great job. I mean, he's truly,
very talented.
Yeah, totally unsettling character, but at the same time, it was just like, there's no mystery about this character. You're just basically waiting for the next moment he's going to unhinge, which happened every episode. So,
for me, it became the win because you kind of knew he was going to kill his maid, and you kind of knew he was going to kill his mom, especially if you watch a lot of Criminal Minds.
And the maid was played by
Patti
LaBelle.
Yep.
Which was amazing.
Okay.
It was for me.
I don't really know her that well.
She sings
Creole Lady Marmalade.
Yeah, the original Lady Marmalade singer. And a bunch of other hits, but that's her biggest
That's
one.
her big one.
But she didn't sing in this.
No, she didn't.
She did not.
We're going to talk about the singing in the moment. What were you going to say?
I forgot.
Okay. And I was going to mention Stanley, Dennis O'Hare. I was glad to see him get his comeuppance. I thought he had a nice, neat little bow on his storyline, and I'm sort of kind of glad that Maggie was not as despicable as him in the end.
She got hers, though, too.
She did. There was a lot of karma action in this season, which was interesting. But I felt like the forays into Stanley's backstory were almost unnecessary because there was really, there was no reason to, I guess, identify with this character other than to know that he was conning them and trying to kill them. And it just felt bloated. So what I wanted to ask you is the fact that there was so much of these bad guys killing people, did that make the season seem bloated to you, or was it seamless? Did it not bother you?
It didn't bother me.
It didn't bother me.
Guess just me.
What bothered me was how the way Maggie, Emma Roberts' character,
yeah.
I feel like it was like, we got to get rid of her, let's do it real quick. We'll have her volunteer for this thing. We'll have her yell and scream before he starts sawing her in half, and everyone is basically behind a curtain and can hear it. No one comes out until he's all the way done. I'm like, no one even tried? I know they didn't really like her that much, but they weren't even curious as to what was going on? I don't know. I just didn't like how that all unfolded. unfolded. Like, I don't think I don't think it was written where she should have died there, or it should have been like a rehearsal and nobody was close by or anything. It was very, I think, forced and quick.
Well, there were a few moments like that in this season, but I think you're right. That was probably the most, like, must get rid of this character now, and so we do.
Right, yes. Especially since if they didn't get rid of her there, she probably would have been hanging around and shot by Dandy anyway.
It's true.
Which I guess they didn't. Would that mean she would have been in the little afterworld scene where everyone is together when they're dead?
I don't think so. I think it's pretty clear she's the outsider, which is maybe why they had her killed the way they had her killed.
Right. Yeah.
And why no one moved to stop it. We could talk, there's, questions of one of the themes in this particular season of American Horror Story is the morality of people. Just because you're normal doesn't make you more moral. Obviously, Dandy appears normal, but is arguably the most abnormal in everything he does. Many of the so-called freaks have hearts of gold and wouldn't hurt a fly. And, it's a very clear, almost ham-fisted, one would argue, message.
Even though I forget that basically one of the first murderers is Lobster Boy. Well, I can't think of the actor or the character. He kills that cop real quick.
Oh,
Jimmy.
yeah.
And you just kind of forget,
Kevin
he did murder someone. Even though I feel like when I'm watching, I forget that.
But that was in self-defense, wasn't it?
I think it was just because they didn't want to get caught. Or any of the Twisty Clown murders get tied back.
They were trying to, yeah.
Well, yeah, and plus he had some anger issues because...
For some reason with that character and the writing, you kind of forget it. Which I don't think is a bad thing. Because I think a lot of people with rage problems, like his dad, who we find out his dad, Michael Chiklis.
Del Toledo.
He's like nice and sensitive, and when he loses it, and it's horrible. So I don't know, I think there was parallels to that. So I didn't mind it, but it just I feel like I hated other characters, not hated, but I felt like these were bad and immoral people because of the things they've done. To forget that, one of them was immoral, he murdered someone. Right.
Well, I don't think they're suggesting that all of the freaks were...
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah. The fact that there was so much going on did bother me. Because it almost felt like there's a lot of ADD going on. Like I have to keep track of all of this stuff that's happening, and all of it was very bloody. And so it just became like a what's going on now reaction as opposed to a oh my gosh, I'm horrified reaction. As the season progressed. It started off like, oh my gosh, I'm horrified, and then it went to...
I can see that.
Yeah, like almost, I don't want to say boring, I think that's harsh, but just a little bit more rote and routine by the end of Freak Show.
Well, with the large break and detour to what we've been talking about in every podcast, the connections. Talk about how Sarah started with season 3 and how that's a good season because it really does stand alone, but the first 3 completely, I don't think there's a moment where you're like, oh, I probably should have watched. You get to season 4 and I don't know if you haven't seen 1 through 3, or at least 2. Do you even care at all what's happening? There's this nun, and I know it's a character that we've seen throughout the season. We're kind of finding out what happens, but it seems like a pretty long detour for it.
So you're, of course, referring to Pepper.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes. She was almost a minor character.
Very much so.
And then they went back.
Which season?
In 4.
Yeah.
And then they went back and told us her whole backstory.
Well, she was arguably minor in 2, too.
Yeah, it's a pretty big role at the end. I know it
at
didn't,
the end.
not a big chunk of time spent on her, but she was important to the story or the character.
She was, and she
character
was memorable because of what she was supposed to be portraying.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was another thing where, her sister and brother-in-law were supposedly normal, but yet, no.
Right.
They were the bad people in that story, and Pepper couldn't defend herself. I think that kind of goes along with what you were saying earlier. My struggle there, honestly, was Elsa said, or her motivation was that she needed to find Pepper a place. She couldn't leave until Pepper was taken care of. I have to find her a safe place. Did she really think that was going to work out? Come on.
Well,
I thought that was a very flimsy tie-in to take her back to her sisters. I just didn't think it worked because now you have to be here. They're going to care for you now. I can't. Leave her with the other freaks then. I don't know. It just didn't
She
make
would have been
sense.
killed.
Well, yeah.
Arguably, she ends up, though, in the better situation, I think, eventually.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, I guess I don't know what happens to her after the asylum shuts down. But
Wasn't the brother-in-law, like, raping her?
I don't remember
Molesting her.
Oh.
I don't know if it went so far as rape, but...
Ugh, it's just terrible.
Yeah, so we already talked about Maggie Esmeralda's death being forced. This was another moment in Freak Show that I felt was forced, because I feel like it was at this point where they started to talk about the connections between all the seasons, and so to really drive that point home, okay, so we have Pepper. You could look at her as like the other pinhead of the Freak Show. She appeared in the previous season. Let's give her this story, and it did take a big detour. And didn't really add much to the Freak Show story. It added a little bit to the Asylum story, but that was 2 seasons after the fact. Mm-hmm. So, I just felt it was another forced moment, which I think a lot of people actually had a problem with as far as reacting to Freak Show.
I don't know. You probably like Asylum slightly more than me and Kylie, Nick. So did you like seeing that, or...
I did. I liked seeing Lily Rabe again. I kind of liked seeing that character, her character again. It's just hard when it is an anthology to say this is Freak Show, but you do get a little bit of... So I was just interested how you guys felt about that, and knowing that it sounds like, even in Hotel, there's some more connections that they're pulling to and how it ties in. Which, I guess if they're visiting the hotel, it will tie into the theme.
That is a convenient setting for such... connection making.
And the potential of season 6 having even more of those connections. And it kind of almost is breaking what American Horror Story is. A separate story every single season of a different type of theme, whether it's a haunted house or an asylum or a haunted hotel, which isn't that different than a house, except more rooms, I guess.
Well,
but it's not necessarily haunted.
No, there's a
it
lot
doesn't deal with
hotels.
ghosts. It deals
Right.
with other things.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't mind this Pepper diversion in Freak Show, but I felt it was forced. It sort of landed in the story in a weird way, and it was after the fact, and it was kind of, there was a lot of exploration for it, and I guess I wasn't, maybe because I didn't like Asylum as much, I didn't feel the need to have to know all of that about Pepper, even though it was, I guess, okay to watch it in the end. I don't know if that makes sense.
If I remember correctly, it is a bit of a break from the gore, too.
It is.
Like,
we don't see too much blood. There's more implication of bad things as opposed to outright seeing of the bad things.
It didn't bother me like a ton, but I just was like, I don't know. It just didn't.
Well, and then there was... Sorry to cut you off. But there's another huge connection to season 2, the same season. Does it start getting weird when one of it... It's Jessica Lange's relationship to a character that's also in season 2 that has...
Are you referring to Dr. Arden?
Yeah, but like Dr. Arden has a big storyline with Jessica Lange in season 2 as well, a completely different character. Like, does that start muddying the world and that they're putting out?
That didn't bother me because an easy explanation would be doppelgangers. They always talk about doppelgangers.
Just
not on American Horror Story as much, but... And
American Horror Story Season 6, Doppelgangers.
we don't know. It could be. At the time of recording, we don't know what this is. So I don't know. That didn't bother me. It was at least a younger Dr. Arden, so chronologically that character was depicted okay. And of course with James Cromwell's son looking amazingly like him. That was interesting. Let's talk about Elsa's backstory. You kind of already alluded to it. We learn that she's basically the victim of torture porn that the Nazis make.
Literal torture porn.
Literal torture porn, to the point that they cut off her legs.
And it was supposed to be a snuff
porno.
film. She was supposed to die.
Yes.
She didn't because Massimo... What's his name?
I don't know what you're trying to say.
Danny Houston's character?
Yes. Massimo Dolcefina.
Yeah.
I don't know why you didn't remember that.
He saved her and made her new legs and nursed her back to health.
The Axeman.
The Axeman.
Right.
But
Same
he's not
actor.
the Axeman.
But yes, that was her. So she was in Germany after or during the war, being a Sally Bowles type character, right?
Yes.
Maybe I should explain that reference. Maybe not. I don't know.
Well,
Cabaret singer.
Yes, not many theatrical types might listen to American Horror Story.
Sorry, guys.
It's a bit of crossover, though, I guess.
Us, but...
I mean, with the cast of the American Horror Story. With
That's
the little
true.
cast
There are a lot of theatrical people.
LaBelle, Lapone, and
If your name's
Niles.
Patty, you show up.
Pretty much.
So she was a cabaret singer, like in the musical Cabaret in Germany during the war, and then she was an actress. Was she a dominatrix? Was that her thing?
Basically,
Yes, and she fell victim to getting her legs sawed off with a chainsaw, which is actually one of my worst fears.
So this, I mean, Ryan Murphy probably was doing this intentionally, no?
Doing what?
I thought you were pulling from reality to tell this story. Are you not describing an actress? Or never mind.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm trying to figure out what you're talking about, I guess.
I'm telling her backstory.
Who is her in this sentence?
Elsa Mars.
Okay. I thought you were explaining your
She
reference.
She was comparing Elsa to Sally. Sally being from Cabaret, so she explained.
So Sally didn't get her legs chopped.
No, she's not a real person.
She's not real. But Elsa Mars, back in the Third Reich, is basically a person like this character.
Sorry, I must have drifted out when you switched back into Elsa.
I still don't know, but I guess it's fine.
Oh, boy.
Sorry, you brought up that character from, I guess, Cabaret, and I thought you were... Never mind.
So, what did we think about this backstory, though, of Elsa Mars? The Elsa Mars.
Elsa's storyline, wasn't my favorite, I guess. I like the tie-ins to... I like the Dr. Arden tie-in. And I kind of like her relationship, even though it mirrored her season 3 relationship with the same actor a lot, right? Isn't it? I don't know if it's a lot, but enough.
There was definitely an intimate piece to them, but and they have really good chemistry, which I think that chemistry translated, but I don't know that their actual story mirrored Fiona and the Axeman that much. Because the Axeman was just a serial killer, and in Coven, she was taken in by him. She almost felt like he was a kindred soul. Whereas in Freak Show, he saves her and nurses her back to health. It's more of that, you're my savior kind of person. If that makes sense.
There was a lot going on with Elsa. She was very duplicitous.
She was. And self-serving.
She was. It was a lot to swallow. Like, I'm going to save these twins so they can make my Freak Show famous. Oh, wait, no, now I'm going to resent the crap out of them and try to get rid of them. It kind of was a lot for me to take.
But I didn't mind that because they were becoming too big of stars, and she wanted to be the star in the headline.
What did she think was going to happen?
And they were being
It would just be another sideshow. Yeah.
One of them was, at least, or maybe both of them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know.
I didn't mind her backstory, which was the original question, but I think it's sullied by my dislike of like how far away from the Freak Show she gets for a while, and it just seems so removed from the world. I felt more removed than the Pepper version. The Pepper storyline.
I thought her backstory was ultimately very disturbing. It does not, what I felt it failed at doing was explaining why she saw herself as a sideshow leader in the end, or how she related to them other than being, so she happens to be this amputee. Obviously she's very vain, almost narcissistic in ways, so maybe this was kind of her way of connecting and sympathizing with this population, but it didn't go a long way to explaining why she did feel that this was the catapult for her potential fame, other than that she randomly found one and became involved with it. It was another one of those moments that felt forced, not the backstory itself, but just trying to connect the backstory to what was going on at present, and that kind of connects to what you're saying, Nick. It felt removed, and I think that's another way of saying it wasn't connected. Let's talk about the music. One of the things that was particularly controversial about Freak Show was the use of music, because the songs that were chosen, even though it was set in 1952, they were all modern songs and therefore anachronistic and also arguably not sung very well. So a lot of people had a problem with the injection of the modern songs. There were songs by David Bowie, Nirvana, Fiona Apple, Lana Del Rey. There's quite a few. How did you feel about the song choices and or the use of music in this season?
I like the use of music. I don't mind that it's not that it wasn't poorly sung. Wait, I don't know how I...
You don't mind that it was poorly sung? Or did you think it was poorly sung? Or not?
I don't really think it was all that poorly sung.
Okay.
It wasn't like the perfection of you would hope to get like in a Broadway musical. It was probably what you would get if you went to a sideshow back then, or a freak show, and it was dwindling and they're trying to do more to keep people entertained. They're not necessarily singers, they're already here and they're trying to add to it. Mm-hmm. Just like if one of them started juggling, they probably wouldn't be very good at it. They're just trying to keep the audience coming back for more. So I actually liked it. I think it added to the feeling of it. I could care less if it was anachronistic there. For some reason, that didn't bother me at all, because all of it is surreal. So all of these seasons have their own surreal aspect to it. So they weren't played the same too. They didn't feel like they were from another era, which is more impressive to me than something to be annoyed about. Did I hit them all?
Sure.
And everyone agrees.
I have a problem.
No. You forecasted that incorrectly now.
My problem is that I love music so much, and musicals and singing, that you can even sing it bad and I'm going to get super psyched about it. So that's my problem. I loved it.
Even though insider information, I think the phrase or sentence uttered most by Sarah during the watching of Freak Show was, "She's just so bad. She just sounds so bad."
I don't think I said that.
Oh my god, are you serious?
She didn't sound great. But you know what?
My problem was the repetitive of Life on Mars. I think her singing it multiple times.
I think that was perfect.
So, true confession, listeners, I did not watch Freak Show until earlier this year, 2016, after, this is a year ago now, so it's been a year, and this was the first time I watched it. There was a little bit of a gap before I picked up American Horror Story again, and so this was after David Bowie died, and David Bowie's death, like many people in the world, hit me very hard because I didn't know he had cancer, and he's one of my favorites. Not my top 10, but he's definitely top 25. And so the Life on Mars and the other Bowie songs, that actually is what made me like Freak Show as third most of the four that I've seen. Because you already mentioned the surreality of it. I think if you're going to pick a surreal artist, David Bowie is the one you pick. I think Life on Mars was an excellent choice of song for the theme of the show, because it's talking about the freak show that is Earth, but it's still talking about that general concept. I think it worked very well with Jessica Lange's voice. She's not actually much of a singer, but she could sing the song, so it didn't bother me that it became a recurring theme. There's a lot of songs in all of the seasons that become recurring themes, like the Dominique song in Asylum, the Seven Wonders song in Coven. There's this song that I don't know the name of in Murder House that gets repeated a lot. So
her character isn't even supposed to be a particularly good singer,
right?
Which is very helpful, because they don't hit us over the head with music in any of the seasons, even though there's more quantity in it. It's in the character's head in season 2. It's only performed by Stevie Nicks in season 3, and in season 4, it's as part of a performance to an audience.
Right.
So
it didn't bother me that she
wrong.
kept trying to sing it, because it was like her go-to song. And no, she wasn't a great singer, so she only had like the song, People that aren't good at something don't like pick a new song every day. They just
I do like to hear that you didn't mind them being out of date, because I wasn't sure if I didn't, because I'm not strongly connected to the Nirvana song, where it's not like something I would have put on a mix CD back in the day.
Yeah. The only one I didn't really love was Criminal, which was sang by Sarah Paulson, and that's only because I thought that choice of song for where she was in the story was a little weird. Mm-hmm. But she sang it well. I mean, she had, again, the right voice for it. Fiona Apple's a lower singer. She sang it pretty well. But I just thought that was a weirdly placed song. But otherwise, none of the other songs bothered me. And like you said, most of them were sung in almost a surreal way. So even though it was supposed to be in front of an audience, there was kind of a fantasy backdrop to it, which gave it that timeless quality, sort of out of space and time, not only of the story, but just in general as we're watching it. I don't know. But some people, like online polls and things of that nature, actually put Freak Show lower because people were really averse to this musical element. Even though they're in a sideshow, you would expect people to sing. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah.
I don't know that in the traditional sideshows a ton of people actually sang.
Well, and this is the last one, and it's trying to pull more audiences and mixing things up more to give a different show.
Hey, I'm also going to just say, Ryan Murphy had a lot of success with Glee. I'm sure that he does like musicals. He was a choir kid growing up, so
I think he's a big music fan in general. Whatever you may say about Glee, they covered a lot of different types of music.
They did. I'm actually rewatching Glee right now, even though I largely don't enjoy it, but it's just one of those things.
You get to watch the decline. It's pretty marked.
Yes. My 2-year-old son also quite enjoys it. One thing I will say is that, he does love music, and you can tell he injects that into his series, and, I mean, he created it. I guess he can do what he wants.
It's true.
Yes, when I was watching it, I'm sure I was yelling that she wasn't a good singer, but I don't think I knew. I don't think you know at the time her whole backstory and everything going on.
Right. You don't. It works. And I mean, to your comment with Life on Mars, there was at least what was cool about it was one of the first things you saw with her doing, and it was literally the last thing you saw her doing before you saw their sort of Freak Show heaven when all the characters met each other again. That's how Elsa died, was singing that song, which was forecasted by, so now let's talk about some of the guest stars, because we had some stunty guest stars in Freak Show, including there was the Halloween arc with the ghost Edward Mordrake, played by Wes Bentley, who liked to visit Freak Show denizens and would, quote, take the one with the, quote, saddest stories, whatever that meant.
On Halloween, right?
That was Halloween, yes. And then, even though this is separate, you can kind of take them in turn, we also had a guest arc by Neil Patrick Harris and his ventriloquism doll, which came to life and was played by AHS regular Jamie Brewer. How did you feel about some of those?
Did it come to life, or did he just imagine it was
in his imagination? Okay. Did I not say that?
No, you said it came to life.
It came to life.
But it was acted out as a yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Everybody else saw.
But in this show, it's
a dummy.
Yes. This show, that's an important distinction.
It is. How did you feel about these two? They're both very diverse, but they were big stunt casts.
I enjoyed both actors. I didn't really know the guy playing Mordrake. I've never heard of him before, but
he was in American Beauty. Did you ever see that?
Yeah, but I don't know. Sure.
Oh, he was the neighbor that took all the videos, including the paper bag.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's in a hotel, but I'm pretty sure he was.
He is in hotel.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive he's in season 6 as well. I thought I was reading the cast list and saw that, which I have no problem with because I enjoyed that story arc. It was one of the most bizarre. I'm like hearing you retell. I'm like, yeah, that is what he did. Just look for sad stories and
the saddest, quote unquote.
Yeah. Well,
the one that tugged at his heartstrings, I guess.
It was an interesting way to end the twisty arc or storyline. That's another. That person existed in real life. He was, I think, part of a freak show. He had having two heads or two faces. Whether it was part of a conjoined twin kind of thing or a tumor. I can't remember, but I did look it up and was reading it when I was watching this. I like that story arc. I like that character. And if you want to be creepy, you bring in a ventriloquist and a ventriloquist dummy. That's one of the creepiest things for me. So I enjoyed
dolls,
both. Not really.
So Chucky wasn't good for you.
No.
I know we talked about this on the X-Files, too, with that one episode.
Yeah, I don't like dolls coming to life. It's a little creepy.
Yeah.
I liked Wes Bentley. I am a giant Neil Patrick Harris fan and did not really care for his character. And not through no fault of his, because I just really don't think there are many things that he could do that would upset me.
I'd like to see... Sorry to jump on that. I did love to also see him do magic and performance, since I know that in real life he does magic and runs the magic castle. It has a lot to do with that in real life.
I think I'm not sure. He's definitely big into it, you're right.
But
so it's even less stunty than, and for my mind, like, we want a good actor who's also a magician to do a performance here and saw somebody in half.
we wanted him to sing. He didn't. But I did enjoy the stunt casting of also having his husband play a role. So that was... I enjoyed that. I don't know, I just didn't care for his character.
No, I agree with you. This is another one of the things I read as people being disappointed about Freak Show season, was that Neil Patrick Harris he's very, very popular. I mean, you would be a fool not to be endeared by Neil Patrick Harris between his many projects and things that he does. He's a pretty phenomenal performer. And this character did him no favors and didn't really add to the story.
It didn't really add to the story, no.
No, it was just, again, more of a gory sideshow once we learned because he was, the dummy was motivating him to do bad things because he was so obsessed with it, and it talked to him in his mind and told him to do bad things. It felt, again, very forced. It's like, oh, we have Neil Patrick Harris. What do we do? Oh, we're going to make him this character. I do agree that the magic was fun, but it was so small. It didn't happen very much, and he was, for all of his many talents, I just don't feel like he was utilized properly.
Agree.
The Edward Mordrake storyline, I liked that one, only because they made it a continuity thing.
Yeah.
That bookended again.
Yes.
It was a nice way to get Twisty out of our hair, and then it was a nice way to wrap up Elsa's life.
Indeed.
But not
Also
nice in a, like,
twist.
jazz hands sort of
and
way.
it was freaky and surreal, like the whole season. So...
Two of the characters that one of them I liked. I didn't like the fat lady girl. That was her freak thing. I'm not trying to call her name, but
yeah.
I thought that was weird. I thought it was weird how... What's the lobster boy? Jimmy. Why was everybody doing it with Jimmy? I mean, I know why they set that up, but I was just like, enough of everybody wanting to do sex with Jimmy. I'm tired of it. Maggie's doing it with him. The twins want to get with him. And now what was her name?
One twin wanted to get with him. The other one didn't. Bet wanted to get with him, and Dot did not.
And then Barbara was her name.
And
then
girl.
I'm a Wiggles was her fat lady name. Well, and she wanted to get with him, and then everybody wanted to get with him, and blah, blah. I'm just like,
Well, to be fair, the fat girl, I mean, she wanted to get with him because he made a point of wanting to get with her, and was really to, exercise some urges that he was not getting fulfilled. Because he was initially with Maggie, and Maggie conned him, so that was part of that, although she eventually, quote, fell in love with him in the end.
Yeah, I just didn't need all that, I guess. I was like, I'm kind of like, blah, can we move on?
It's kind of ironic because I think Evan Peters does a great job in every season on this show. I liked this performance better than Coven, but the character was better than Coven. But yeah, his character, it just went to some really weird, zigzaggy, loop-de-loop kind of places. And ended in a strange place. So I don't know.
Kathy Bates was in this season.
Was.
And we didn't talk about that at all.
She played the bearded lady and also Jimmy's mother.
Who gave birth while chained to a tree or whatever.
Yeah, because people were making her a freak show on the side. There was a lot of, again, the message of this season was, the morality of the normals versus the morality of the freaks.
And we had the character played by Grace Gummer, whose dad turned her into a freak by tattooing her and making her...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why I found that real disturbing.
It was. There was a lot of...
I know, but there's, I don't know. To the point where I was like, I can't wait to find out, I would like to see her dad's comeuppance. Which I don't know to what extent we see. I know they go, I can't remember what they
kill him.
Do they kill him?
Yeah.
Did someone stop him?
The tattoo girl, Desiree, I don't know if there was a third person or not, but I feel like Maggie was there, actually. Decide to help her out by, I think they end up chopping him
I
off.
didn't think they did, but
I thought they stopped him. I thought they poured tar all over him.
They did.
And I thought they were about to castrate him, and then somebody stopped. One of them stopped them from
Jimmy
going
stop
through
him?
with it.
I thought
Because
they
they didn't want
sealed
to be actual freaks like he was.
Oh, I think Jimmy stopped them, now that you're talking about it.
Yeah.
But he was, horrible. I think the point is he would still end up horribly scarred, like she was horribly scarred. So there was a sort of, it wasn't a death-based comeuppance, but there was a comeuppance for him. So you mentioned the bearded lady. What did you want to say about her?
I just like Kathy Bates, and it was like she wasn't even in the...
Okay, here's another controversial piece of this season. So Kathy Bates affected a Baltimorean accent.
Yeah, what was wrong with it?
It wasn't consistent, number one.
Oh, I didn't notice.
Oh. Yeah, there was a lot of people who talked about it, actually. Actually, our good friend Jordan pointed that out as one of the reasons he didn't love this character. It's because she didn't maintain this accent. And it was sort of a jarring accent. And you wondered why, Jimmy didn't have a little hint of it.
Well, didn't they move a lot?
I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if,
they just do
it
accents.
didn't bother me, but, was it necessary, or was it just because we were like, hey, yo, Kathy Bates, do an accent. You can do it. We love you. People will be impressed with it. And then they made her do it. And, I don't know. I didn't need it to be there. But it didn't bother me.
You didn't think it was a real thing. You're like, that's how John Travolta talks in Hairspray.
That is illegitimately what I said.
But Hairspray is set in Baltimore.
Right, I didn't know she was supposed to be from Baltimore, so I was like,
Philadelphia.
Why is she trying to talk like John Travolta in Hairspray? And then Nick looked it up, and I was like, well, I guess that is an actual thing, and I didn't know that.
I think lots of people try not to talk like it anymore. Maybe not. I don't know what I'm talking about.
What are you saying?
It's a ridiculous dialect.
Okay, if anyone from Baltimore is listening, sorry. Jeez. Let's change the subject. So, this was Jessica Lange's last official season with the show.
She's going to be in another one, I think, Stunt Kids.
Those are unconfirmed rumors, though. We don't know for sure. So, assuming we do not see her again, how do you feel about this performance? Should it be her final performance on the show?
Yeah, well, I don't mind that this performance was her final performance. I don't know if it was her best or worst. I think she's delivered a pretty consistently great acting performance throughout the last 4 seasons. I think it would be awesome to have her come back as one of those 4 characters in a tie-in, in a 1 episode, kind of Lily Rabe in season 4 type of thing. I initially, when I found out she wasn't in season 5, before we even knew it was Hotel, it seemed like Lady Gaga was replacing her, and that seemed like, that's no good. But
I laughed because I felt the same.
But if you don't think about her as replacing Jessica Lange, she's joining the cast. Jessica Lange won't be there. We still have Angela Bassett and Kathy Bates, which joined in season 3. If you just think of Lady Gaga as an addition, which as somebody who's never seen Lady Gaga act in anything, there's no reason to be upset about it at all. It's hard to say this, but I don't think I'll actually miss Jessica Lange in the Hotel. I think there's going to be enough going on. So I'm okay with it. I hope she comes back for at least an episode or a little story arc or something. But
I don't think she is going to. From what I've read, she has said absolutely not and given multiple reasons. I don't care. I don't mind if she does. I think she's very talented, but I like it when they're kind of a lead one season and then like less so the next season, and now a juicier part, but now maybe less of one. I like when they kind of mix it up. And it was kind of the Jessica Lange show for a while, and I like to see some other people. And now it's kind of starting to be the Sarah Paulson situation, which I adore her, but I want to see different people in different sizes.
Even though I would say Sarah Paulson, she's got a lot in Freak Show, even though a couple episodes she doesn't have that much. I feel like Coven, she's there, but she's kind of her character's kind of in the background. In season 1, is it even 2 episodes?
There's a
second
3 or 4. She's
really?
Yeah, but she doesn't spend in any single episode. She's not there long.
It's
only like 5 or 10 minutes, and basically it's more expositional every time she appears.
So I don't mind if she's in it even more, but yeah, sometimes I even forget, like Dennis O'Hare wasn't in 2, and it seems like he's got a lot in every single one. I don't miss Kathy Bates going back and rewatching 1 and 2. Like, I really like the ebb and flow, so I kind of agree with you. I just don't think that anyone other than Jessica Lange has been so prominent in all 4 of these first seasons.
Right.
Since they didn't even let Evan Peters talk, really. The third season. But he is now, if you look at all of them and he has surpassed Jessica Lange. Evan Peters is in more episodes.
He's in the most episodes. Sarah Paulson is in the second most episodes. And then I think Jessica's third.
The only people to appear in all 5 seasons of the show are Evan Peters, Sarah Paulson, and Lily Rabe.
Okay.
According to Wikipedia, now I know.
Yeah. Well, and Lily Rabe is just 1 episode of season 4.
Yeah.
But Frances Conroy wasn't on that list, and she's barely in season 2.
And Lily didn't have a giant part in season 1. She was in several episodes, but it wasn't as...
I mean, to go back to the original question, I do not feel like, even though her characters across the 4 seasons she was in had a lot of similarities, I do not feel that Elsa was the best of the 4. I would almost argue that she probably had the hardest acting job in 2, even though that was, not my favorite of the seasons. I think that character went to more places. She was more tour de force in 3, and in 1, she was just kind of the energy behind that season because the other main characters were so understated. So I almost feel like Elsa is a little bit anticlimactic in a way, just because of how she's set up in this storyline, how her character ends in this storyline. I would be surprised if she comes back. I know a lot of people have been rumor milling about it, but she's also kind of been that actress throughout her career that's been like, I'm satisfied with this, I'm done.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if she's saying it now about American Horror Story that she would feel that way again. Now, if they end up, because there's a lot of unconfirmed rumors about season 6, if they end up resurrecting any characters, I don't know if that means she'd be willing to try on any of the ones she's played again, but I doubt that she would do another character. I don't think she would. So to me, Elsa is kind of like, okay. There was that.
I know that a lot of people, when I was researching, said that they thought her greatest character was Jude, Sister Jude, and that Elsa was their least favorite.
Yeah, I would say that's true. I agree with that.
She's actually not that she's not in season 1 a lot, but it really is the family in the house and her coming in and out.
She kind of bears witness. She's kind of like a through line of and delivers some exposition.
If it was about her, it would have been before the family moved in. She lived there and lived in the house before as well, with a lot going on.
Well, and she's also sort of the fan that fuels the fire in many aspects in Murder House because, she was a resident at one point, and a lot of her relatives end up being the ghosts, and then she also takes on the baby at the end of the season. So it's almost like she's enabling the house. I don't know. I agree with that online poll. That's spot on, I think. So did you have any lingering questions or impressions at the end of Freak Show, or how did you feel at the end, or about the resolution of it?
I'm not positive I like... This is what happens to the characters. They're all dead. But we're going to cheat and let you see what the afterlife is for them. I don't know how that sits well for me. And we kind of get that in season 3. Do we get that for Jessica Lange's character as well?
I don't think
With
so.
Axeman, like living in a perpetual cabin, and she hates it? Or is that just her hell?
I think that's her hell, not the end of the story. I think she just dies, right?
She dies of cancer. Yeah.
Okay. So like I said, I don't know if everyone's just all together out of these characters. I don't know. It isn't the best.
Well, and then we see the twins and Jimmy living together.
Yes, I like that aspect of the ending. I actually really kind of like that a lot. That felt pretty good. It's really hopeful and optimistic for a lot of these characters, which is weird for a horror story, American Horror Story.
It is, but I
Even
think...
though they're dead for
well,
a lot of them.
Well, that's it. I think that this didn't bother me because I think it was just trying to present a contrast from their lives, which the show paints the picture as pretty terrible overall. They have each other, but once they get outside the tents, it's a horrible, horrible life at their time and place. So I think the point of showing us the afterlife is that even though life could be terrible, there might be something you're still living for. I don't know. I think Freak Show was more philosophical overall as a season than the other 3, and so the ending didn't bother me. I liked it, actually. And for me, it, again, tied it up very nicely in ways that at least Asylum didn't do very well.
I didn't have any real problems with the ending. I mean, I think them all being killed and dying was like, in a way, I almost was like, this is a cop-out. But then it had a nice sense of finality for me. I felt invested with a lot of them, and particularly some of the smaller characters that we haven't talked about yet, like the Seal, Amazon Eve, like Liz Susie, and they all took care of each other, which I think rings true for really what I know of the freak shows of days past. They really only had each other. Now, they were somewhat more respected, not respected, but people flocked to see them back in the day. And they said, it's toward the end of when that era was. So they're like one of the last freak shows. Yeah. It's nice to think that they got a happy ending.
And a little sense of normality when they weren't, quote, normal. Is there anything else that you want to say, anything we haven't covered, any other point you want to talk about regarding American Horror Story Season 4 Freak Show?
Well, we didn't mention how one actor who played Meep, they ended up rewriting the storyline because he got a job teaching. No, he got a job teaching.
He was a teacher.
So they rewrote him out then, and
he showed up, and I think from week to week they weren't telling people how long they were going to use him, and he's like, I got to go back to my teaching job. That's my job. And so they wrote his death.
Yeah, so he wasn't originally in the grand plan of the season supposed to die there, even though it was a pretty big hurdle for Jimmy's hurdle. It propelled his story forward, that the guilt of him dying to take the blame for the murder of the cop, I believe.
Yeah.
And then in real life, that actor has since died.
I don't know if he died during the filming of season 4 after or not.
I think right after.
Because he's in the last episode, you just see him run past, and I don't know if that's just something they kind of shot in the grand scheme of the season and was able to use it at the end, but Meep was there too.
Ben Wolf.
So that was the only... I think that's the first time I realized when I was reading that they aren't well crafted in the sense that they know what's going to happen, which for some reason I would have assumed... Like, there's a pretty good idea of the storyline of the season, but to not know that this character was going to die and change the main character, one of the main character storylines so much was surprising to me.
Kudos to the writers that they were able to adapt, because that was actually one of the more moving storylines, I feel.
Yeah, definitely.
So
he died after it had aired, so he was struck in the head by the side mirror of a passing car.
Yeah,
while
it was a freak accident.
That's terrifying. But he was a preschool teacher, and he considered acting just a side job. But yeah, so it didn't have anything. He had died after filming. Sorry. Oh, that was too bad, though. I enjoyed him.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was the only other thing that kind of stood out. Well, was Meryl Streep's daughter in this?
Yeah, she was Penny, the lizard girl.
Okay.
Who I read while we were talking, she was the one that stopped them from hurting her father.
Okay.
Somebody else stepped in and said, you can't do this. And she said, I will let you live, but if you come around here again, I'll kill you myself.
Yes, that's right. He was still tarred, though.
Yes.
And I think they put feathers on him,
Yes.
too. Tarred and feather.
I think what's surprising to me, too, is one of the more horrific moments of this show was just Michael Chiklis's character breaking the doctor's hands. Just because he was such a nice, awesome, person that, I don't know, felt bad there. And that, out of all the horrific things that happened in season 4, that moment where the doctor who's going to help Desiree with some surgeries become more normal, that he,
we come to find out she is not a hermaphrodite.
Yeah, she's not.
Right.
Was a twist.
What was a twist? The Del character was
Not my favorite.
Not
my favorite either. Sorry, Michael Chiklis. You play a lot of good characters. That one was just so... You didn't really get clearly what his motivations were. Was he sexually frustrated because he was closeted? Or was he... why did he get so mad over Desiree? He was up, he was down, he had the rage, he didn't have the rage. Why was he even in that state to begin with, other than the fact that he's just very strong? There was just a lot of questions there, and even the reveal between him and Jimmy, when they basically figure out that one is dad and one is son, it felt very anticlimactic in a way, even though the reveal of their actual relationship through Ethel was pretty moving. I don't know. I found that character hard to take.
I struggled also with Gabourey Sidibe's character.
Oh, she was random.
Highly underutilized, and I just didn't even really, it wasn't enough. I wanted her to do something else, so.
Well, it was just so random. I think they were, again, I made the reference to the forced moments, piggybacking on what Nick had said earlier. That was another forced moment. We have Gabourey available. She's taking a break from Empire. Let's put her on this show. And let's introduce this other random character so that Dandy can just kill her in an episode or two. Because you all knew that was going to happen. That's how I felt.
Well, she doesn't die, does she?
I don't remember.
I don't believe she dies.
She doesn't. Well, he tries. I thought she died.
I thought he let her go, which was weird.
See, I don't know.
We don't even know, listeners, because it was so random it didn't make sense. Her mother died.
Her mother does die. Her mother is Patti LaBelle.
On the show, not in real life.
Right.
But,
Oh, yeah. I think he lets her go.
I think he does, because I was like, oh, you gonna die. And she didn't. And I was like, oh.
Doesn't she get to bring the cops then? Or is this after she brings the cops he lets her go?
I don't remember.
Okay. Well, never mind.
I really don't remember.
I felt like Frances Conroy, while she did an amazing job with that character, I wanted more of her in the season.
Yeah. But she enabled her psychopathic side.
She did. She played the part. She played the part perfectly.
She kind of... I don't want to say she got what she deserved. Deserve is a strong word, but you knew it was going to happen.
Right, yeah, most definitely.
Frances Conroy is a gem. Mm-hmm. She is a gem to this show. I just enjoy watching her and all of her random characters in all of the 4 seasons that I've seen. And I don't think she's in Hotel, is she? Is she in Hotel?
She's not.
See, that's just...
But do we know if she's coming back for 6?
I hope so.
Because I'd be more devastated by that than
she
just
isn't
Elena.
listed to come back yet.
Oh, no. Frances, come back. You're so good.
But I'm pretty sure Kathy Bates and Angela Bassett are in season 6.
Okay.
I can't remember. And Evan Peters?
Evan Peters, yes. He's in all the seasons. He'll probably keep coming back.
And I think Sarah Paulson
is in all the seasons, yeah.
will be in 6.
She is in season 6. I just looked up. He lets her go. He does not kill Gabourey Sidibe.
Okay. Well,
sorry,
it
I had
sure
to
seemed
know.
like it was going to happen.
It did, but he did not.
Okay.
He tried to get her to take a bath in the blood, and then
that's right.
she was like, "Heck no."
As one would. Mm-hmm. One would hope. That's right, because they were childhood playmates.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he was trying to play with her. Yeah.
Yeah. It was weird. And
he cried, guys. He cried.
to understate it. Well, again, I want to thank Sarah and Nick for joining me for our 4th episode of American Horror Story, our American Horror Story series, that is. The next time you hear us, we will be discussing the 5th season, which is American Horror Story Hotel. I promise we will all have watched it by then. And Nick will be back on the moderating mic, so
dun, dun, dun.
Yes, be prepared for that little twist. For now, keep listening, keep watching. Of course, you can find us at couchpotatorsunite.wordpress.com. Keep track of what's coming up. We always have a lot coming up, including several new episodes. We're doing some live podcasts. We're also hip to the social media. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, subscribe to our channels at YouTube, iTunes, and Stitcher Radio. We're out there, find us. We think we have some pretty good discussions. We hope you agree. Give us a try. Tell your friends. Until that time, keep listening, keep watching, stay tuned, and keep track of American Horror Story on FX.